What's happening? This is the Tap In Podcast. We are live inside of the Tap In studio. I got a special guest with me today. In lieu of everything going on, I thought it was just imperative that I get somebody that is from the other side of, that badge that we can actually talk to. And just to get some insight, I have Miss LaRhonda Young with me. How you doing, LaRhonda?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, man. Thank you so much. Yes. So I kind of want to, before we get into everything that's going on, because the United States is going crazy right now. It is up in arms. But I kind of want to just give some context to the people who are watching. Mm-hmm. Now, you used to work for the Fort Worth Police Department, right?
Yes.
How long were you there?
I was with Fort Worth PD for 12 and a half years, from 1992 to late 2004.
Oh, okay.
And after that, I went to work for the state, and I did special investigations for the state. In the Child Protective Services arena. And then I left there, and I was trying to keep my license active because I wasn't sure where I wanted to go as far as my career at that time. Mm-hmm. So I worked for a college police department to keep my law enforcement license active until I could determine what I was going to do. And I eventually fell into education, and I've been in education now for the last 13 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So when you first joined, what were you doing? Were you on the streets? Were you beating the streets up, or
yes,
what the hell you doing?
Yes, I think a misconception about police work. I get calls all the time, people that are interested in police work, but they say, hey, I want to be a homicide detective, or I want to be a crime scene investigator. How do I do that? And my answer is always, you got to beat that street first. Everybody starts on the street. I don't care who it is. If you see somebody on the desk, they started on the street. Everybody goes through the academy.
Okay.
The steps are, you go through the academy. Once you get through the academy, you go through a training process on the street. They don't just take you out of the academy and stick you on the street. So with Fort Worth, and I can only speak for Fort Worth because that's the only place I've ever worked out of an academy. With Fort Worth, you do 3 months of training on the street. You do a training on each shift, first shift, second shift, and third shift, which is the midnight shift.
Okay.
You train with an officer. That officer teaches you basically the ropes on the street. You put what you learned in the academy to work at that point, okay? And of course, the books can't teach you how to operate in the street, so that's why it's imperative that you go through that training.
Right.
Once you get through that 3 months of training, if they see that you're progressing like you should, then you do what they call the ghost phase. Ghost phase lasts for 2 weeks. 2 weeks, you go back to the very first training officer you had in that 3 month period, and they're going to ride with you for 2 weeks in plain clothes as just a citizen on the street. You're the officer. You're doing everything. You're answering the calls. You're making the reports. You're talking to the citizens. You're doing everything that needs to be done. Now, if they see that you did something wrong, they'll redirect you. They'll tell you, hey, you probably should have did this way, or you did great, but it would be better to do it this way. So you go through that ghost phase, and once you finish the ghost phase, they cut you loose. When they say they cut you loose, that's exactly what they do. They cut you loose.
Well,
you get in that police car by yourself. You by yourself. There's nobody in there with you. But today things are a lot different. They try to team people up, I think, today because of the climate that we're in with everything that's going on. But I can remember that day I got cut loose. That's a scary feeling. Yeah. Because you don't have anybody else with you. And it's like, okay, I gotta remember how to type on the computer and where I'm going. And so it's a lot. It's a lot.
Within a matter of 4 months, you pretty much basically on your own after that?
Well, 3 months. Yeah. I would say 3.5. And that's after being in the academy for about 10 months. The academy has gotten longer since I was with the police department. You got to remember, I'm an old lady now.
Okay.
When I came on, the academy was 21 weeks, which was 5.5 months. Okay. Now the academy is more like 6 or 6.5 months. So you go through that academy and they're teaching you things that you need on the street. And then, like you said, you do that 3.5 months on the street with somebody. So you're getting a little over a year of training before you're actually cut loose by yourself.
Okay.
And out of training mode.
Okay. So And you went through. Did you have a partner when they cut you loose? You didn't have a partner. You were there by yourself. How long were you by yourself on the street?
Oh wow! You know what? After you get used to it, you prefer to ride by yourself because you don't want to deal with the mistakes that other people may make, and we'll get into that.
Okay. Okay.
You know, I rode by myself. Let's see. I worked the east side of Fort Worth, which was Stop 6, Eastwood. What we know is the south side, Evans and 35, that area over there.
Okay.
I worked that area from 93 when I got cut loose till about 99, because after that I transferred to the academy and I actually became a instructor at the academy, and then I moved to the gang unit where I was then chosen to work with the feds, and I went to what's called alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, and I worked with the feds the last stint of my time on the department.
Okay, all right. Now, as a rookie, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm saying rookie like you only been on the streets for less than a year. That's what I would call a rookie. Is that accurate, or? To
be honest, a rookie is somebody who has less than 5 years of experience, because it's going to take you 5 years to really get it down. It takes that long to really get it down. You may be cut loose, but within the department, they still look at you as a rookie until you get past 5 years. Once you get past that 5 years, then you're pretty much seasoned. You pretty much know what you're doing.
Okay.
You pretty much have, because even 2 years into the game, you may be calling up an old head, asking them, "Hey, I got this call. What do you think I should do? This is what I'm planning on doing. How do you think?" You're gonna have some things where you still have some questions.
Okay.
It takes you about 5 years to get comfortable and really know what you're doing.
Okay. Now, as I've said it plenty of times on this show, as a black man, I really don't fuck with the police. I honestly, just my experience with them I've never had a good experience where they've come to help me. I've even got jumped right, like a car passed by and I got jumped right with the police right there, and them motherfuckers just kept driving, and I never seen them as a way of protection.
I got you.
For myself, you know what I mean? And so I think that's one of the reasons why I definitely wanted to bring you on here, because I want to actually see it from somebody who's behind the badge. I want to see it from that perspective because I've only seen it from one side. You know what I mean? Have you seen any like corruption within the that look says it all? Have you seen any corruption inside the police force?
I was gonna say, must you ask? Of course. Of course.
And what happens? Like, I mean,
of course. Let me say this.
Okay.
Any police officer that tells you that there is no nothing negative going on behind the scenes in any police department is a lie. I'm gonna say that. Let me just put that on the table.
Okay.
That's a known fact, that there is always going to be something going on that shouldn't be going on in a police department.
Right.
It was built on that. Let's just be clear.
Right.
I'm going to keep it 100.
Yes,
now,
please do.
I was the same way as an officer. I'm going to keep it 100. I'm not going to play these games with the police department. I don't hold my tongue. And they know me. So, you know, this is not new to them either.
Yes.
So,
yes.
But the reality is there is always something that's going to be going on that should not be happening. But on the flip side of that, and I can say this because I've seen it, I've lived it, and I've been one to say something about it.
Okay.
There are people that are working in those departments that are fighting that battle on the inside. And it's a tough battle to fight.
Right.
Because now you're looking at being shunned. You're looking at always being picked on for some reason.
By who? By the other officers or by your
other
captain?
Officers, supervisors, yeah.
Really?
Because you don't fit the mold. You know, so when people say, you know, they're all bad, ain't nobody saying nothing, that's a lie.
Right.
Because they're saying something. But what you have to remember, there are there are things put in place, there are policies in place where you can't just come out to the public and go to the media and start talking about what's going on within the department. You can't do that.
Okay.
You really can't do that.
Okay.
Because, I mean, it's just like if we were family,
Right.
we might have a whole lot of stuff going on in the house, but you can't come out here and put that in the street.
Right.
We handle it here. So, you know, I've had conversations with friends and told them there were days when I went to roll call and I've seen officers almost come to blows because they don't see eye to eye on what somebody did on the street. You know, so they deal with it, but they deal with it on the inside because they can't go to the media and say, hey, this is what's happening. That'll get you fired. Because
coming out to the public?
Hey, there are policies in place about certain things that you can't talk about in the public eye. Now, you may be able to address something and say, hey, we don't agree with this. This was uncalled for. This shouldn't have happened. But actually going to the media about what's going on the inside of a police department or even in the military, you can't do that.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
Because I imagine the police department being like either a fraternity or a sorority or an actual corporation, a job where, you may have some things that's going wrong on the inside, but you can't talk about it. But at the same time, when the public want answers, it's like nobody is saying nothing.
That's because the public has to go through certain channels to get those answers. If you have to go to the chief to get the answers, the chief ain't gonna tell you what's really going on. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If you have to go to the upper echelon, you're not gonna get what's really on the plate because
he's gonna give us like a political answer,
exactly,
and we're looking into it, internal investigation.
Exactly. But you have officers. Okay, let me give you an example. You have an officer who observed something another officer did on the street that was inappropriate. Okay. What he has to do is go back to that office and file a formal complaint against the other officer. Okay. He files that complaint. Y'all don't know about that complaint.
Right.
You don't know nothing about it.
Right.
But you see them both on the street the next day.
Right.
But this officer over here has already filed a complaint. Now, that complaint has channels it has to go through. Internal Affairs has to call in officers and speak to them. They have to call the victim and speak to them. They have to, they have channels that they have to go through. But that officer who made the complaint can't come out on the street and start telling everybody, hey, I filed this complaint against this officer. Don't worry about it. This is what, you can't do that. But that doesn't mean they're not doing something to alleviate the problem from happening the next time. It's just that it takes a long process and it takes time to get it done. And I think what happens is people get frustrated with the process.
Yes.
And I get it.
Yes.
I get it.
Yes.
Because as a police officer, I went through some things and I got frustrated with the process.
Can you tell us what happened?
Let me say this. I was working in gang. I was assigned to the gang unit.
Okay.
I was chosen because I was a black female. They needed a black female in this Fed agency unit.
Okay.
Okay. They asked my sergeant, could I come and work with them? Sure. Sergeant Lieutenant sign off on it. I go to this unit. Well, when you get an assignment to a federal unit like that, that's kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
You got a lot of officers out here that want that assignment.
Oh, okay.
Officers are out here. They want to go because first of all, you making the big money because you getting the overtime ain't nobody else getting. You working extra hours that ain't nobody else getting. Not only that, this is top secret stuff you working on. So that makes your resume look good.
Yes.
Now remember, I didn't go to them.
Right. They came to you.
They came and found me.
Right.
They came to my office.
Right.
They called me on the phone.
Right.
And said, hey, you think you want to come work with us? We need somebody who got their ear to the street. Sure. I get the approval. Well, my sergeant, and this is where nepotism comes into play. My sergeant had a son who also worked for the department, who ended up in my same unit. But we were working different cases. The case I had was the bigger case. A little bit of jealousy might have fell in there. He wanted that case. So he started feeding his mother things that I was doing that were not true.
Was the mother on the...
The mother was my gang unit sergeant.
So the mother and the father were working on the police department.
Yeah, the
and
mother
the son.
And the son, yeah.
And
all of them were police officers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That don't even sound good going into it. But go ahead, continue.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
So he's feeding his mother all this stuff. She's not coming to work. She's not doing this. She's not doing that. You need to pull her out the unit, because if your sergeant gets some negative information about you and you're in another unit and I'm technically still assigned to gang unit. She could come and pull me out of that unit.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, luckily for me, I had a lieutenant above her who didn't play those games. So she was trying to find another way to kind of, get to me.
Yeah.
So what she would do is go to roll call with the gang officers and just make all these crazy statements about me in roll call when I'm not there. And say things like, I'm going to get her out of that unit because they're saying not saying her son.
Right.
They're saying. But everybody knows who she's talking about, because who else is going to say something like that?
Right.
I want her out of that unit. When she gets back to gang unit, don't assist her if she calls for an assist. Now you put my life on the line.
Right.
Because if I need an assist, that's your job to come and assist me. Because I could get killed out there. This ain't Burger King where we just flipping burgers and you ain't got to come over to the next stove and help me out.
Right.
If I'm calling for an assist, I'm probably looking at a gun or about to look at a gun or a knife or something. My life is on the line out here.
Right.
So a couple of my buddies in gang unit called me and said, hey, this is what she said in roll call. This is what she trying to do. I'm just letting you know. Watch your back. Blah, 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 blah. I'm dealing with a lot of stuff personally at the same time.
Now let me is this a black woman, or is this a white woman, or is this a Hispanic woman, or this Hispanic family?
She had a Hispanic last name, but I think she was white. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
So you dealing with racism inside of the police department?
Of course.
Okay.
Of course.
Okay.
So, long story short, I decided, because of other things I was dealing with, because I had already been saying once my assignment was over in ATF, I was going to leave the department anyway. The guys that I worked with, because I was the only female in that unit in ATF. Okay. So the guys I was working with, they already knew I had plans to leave when that assignment was over. We just didn't tell anybody. I went on vacation. And on vacation, I decided, you know what? We already did what we needed to do. Let me just go ahead and turn my resignation in. I go to the office to turn in my resignation, and she berates me in the office in front of everybody in the office, saying, well, you weren't doing this. You weren't going to work. You were saying you were at work, but you weren't at work, and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. So I told her, I said, well, if that's the case, I picked up the phone, called the sergeant that was working over there. I'm sure he could verify that for you, because it was a lie.
Right.
She didn't want to make the call.
Right.
So I told her, I said, well, the only person that could have gave you information like that is your son. Mm-hmm. Now get this. Her son had been fired for lying on the department before. A man died in his custody. He was fired for lying in that case. He ended up getting his job back.
See, that's the part that I guess really frustrates the public, because I'm sure the family that from that person who died is like, how the fuck this nigga get his job back when my family member is gone?
Right.
And it's like, how does that happen?
Right.
How does, and I guess that's what the public want answers about. How does somebody kill somebody, right? Even at McDonald's, if you serve the wrong meal too many times, they gonna fire you. You're not gonna be able to come back.
Right. So what I'm telling you is, between the nepotism and the relationships that people have within those departments, they are able to bypass things that somebody like me can't bypass. You see what I'm saying? Because had that been me, I'd have been gone.
Right.
So, we had a conversation right there. I mean, she's the one that brought it up in front of everybody. So, of course, I went there.
Yeah.
You're listening to your son, and he got fired for lying. We can't even put him on the stand when we go to court on this case, because he's already been proven to be a liar.
Yeah.
That hurt her little feelings. Well, my feelings were hurt because you berated me in front of everybody.
Right.
And then when we exchanged words, now the other sergeant comes over and threatens to arrest me. I'm the police. My resignation, I just turned it in. I still got a badge and a gun. I still work here.
Right.
So he threatens to He threatens to arrest me. Now, how you think that make me feel? Now, I done put my life on the line for the last 12 and a half years.
Right.
And you going to tell me you going to arrest me because I won't leave the office because you don't like what I'm saying? So, of course, because I got the knowledge, I know exactly what they know. And we all got guns. So if you're going to pull a gun, well, I guess we all pulling guns.
Right.
Let's just be clear about it.
Right.
So he did something that they do on the street all the time. They try to threaten you with you going to jail.
Right.
Well, that ain't working for me because I got the knowledge.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So I told him, I said, well, okay, well, I tell you what. You go ahead and call the lieutenant. I'm going to sit in this chair and wait for him. And when you get the charge that you going to arrest me on, please let me know. Because we all know the penal code. So I sit in the chair. Now he's frustrated. She's frustrated because it ain't nothing they can do.
Right.
I got you now. So I said that to say this. When we know what they know, they can't feed us no bull crap.
Right.
You can't arrest me just because you feel like it.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
But when we go out here and act a fool and we ain't got no knowledge and we can't protect ourselves with this right here,
Yeah.
you get all this other stuff that we see.
Yeah.
So push came to shove. I'm sitting in the chair. I ain't moving. They calling the lieutenant. I ain't moving because I know you can't arrest me.
Right.
Now you done got yourself caught up in something that you can't even,
Can't even do.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Another buddy of mine that happened to be in the office, he came over. He said, step out with me. He was a brother. He said, you got them where you want them. You done caught her in a lie. They can't arrest you. We all know that. Just leave the office before they make it something that it's not. When I get in the car, my lieutenant calls and says, what's going on? They said, you throwing furniture, you did this, you did that. Now, I haven't done any of that.
Right.
So I tell I called him LT. I said, LT, I ain't done none of that. I said, they lying. Go to his house. He invites me to his home. So I'm telling you that to let you know there are good officers in there.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
He invites me to his home. His wife is also an officer at the time. They sit down and talk to me, and he's like, that's bull. Because, first of all, she shouldn't approach you like she did. She can't berate you in the office in front of everybody. If she had a problem with you, she should have, talked to you in private.
Right.
And let's handle it in a professional way, this, that, and the other. Do you know that man held my resignation for 5 weeks and wouldn't let me quit? Because they didn't want me to leave. Because when you got good officers, you don't want them to go nowhere. Because they expose the bad ones. So, but for me at the time, because of what I was dealing with in my personal life, I needed to leave right then. I had a sister battling cancer.
Oh, okay.
And so I needed to leave right then. They didn't know that. They thought I was leaving because I was upset with, what had happened.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, that's kind of what happened. And then after I left, I get a call from Internal Affairs. One of my buddies, a good officer, calls me from Internal Affairs and says, hey, they put a 3-day suspension in your file. Well, first of all, they can't give you a suspension without you signing it. I said, well, I never signed a suspension. He said, I know. That's why I'm calling you, because you got a signature on there. It's your name. So what does that mean? They committed fraud.
Yes.
To put a suspension in my file.
Yeah.
Now, if they're doing that to me,
Right.
and I work there,
Right.
what you think they gonna do to the brother on the street that doesn't know the law and doesn't know? So I had to get an attorney, go to the chief, make him get that out of my file, because the chief didn't know it was there. The sergeant and a deputy chief who were friends got together and did that while the chief was out of town. We exposed it to the chief. The chief took it out my file, but he never disciplined them.
See, and that's what I don't understand.
And that's what we're dealing with in these police departments. So when people say, why don't the good officers speak up? They are speaking up. But you see the red tape that I just had to deal with?
Yeah.
That's what they're dealing with. And so it takes so much. And it wears on them because they're doing it.
Right.
But it's a process. And they may fight that battle for years before something really comes of the complaint or whatever it is that they made. And so while they're fighting that, now they fighting their own sisters and brothers on this side saying, you are Uncle Tom or you this or you that because you ain't. So they in the middle like,
what do I do?
What do I do? Because I know I'm doing the right thing,
right.
But because they don't see it over here, I'm an Uncle Tom.
Right.
That's why I say us as black people, we got to be careful about how we treat our black officers because you don't know what they're going through in that department.
Yeah.
You don't know the stress that they're dealing with in that department.
Right.
They dealing with some heavy stuff. If they go complain on somebody, Man, can you imagine going to roll call after you make a formal complaint and everybody else is against the complaint that you made and you still got to work with them on the street? Now, they may not say like she did, don't assist them.
Right.
However,
they probably
you
ain't
never
gonna,
know.
Yeah, they probably
you
ain't
see what
gonna
I'm saying?
assist.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what they're dealing with. You see, it's a lot tougher than what it looked like.
It is. And what that makes me is more sympathetic to the black officers.
Exactly.
But as a citizen, sometimes I see black officers doing the most harm to the people on the streets.
Oh, yeah.
So it's kind of hard to really be sympathetic.
Yeah.
But from what your story you telling, I'm like, damn,
Yeah.
I understand a little bit. I do understand. Yeah. And it's confusing for the public as well.
And let me say this: you're right. There are black officers out there that don't need to be out there either. Mm-hmm. So I'm not, And it's, to be honest, I don't want to get into black and white thing, but right now that's where we are. Yeah. We have to deal with that.
Yeah.
And when I first got on that department, man, I got story after story. My first training officer was a brother.
Mm-hmm.
That first month, when I tell you that man dogged me so bad, I'm talking about cuss me out in front of citizens, talk crazy to me, drive off and leave me somewhere because I didn't fill out the worksheet right, and then come back 15 minutes later to pick me up, leave me out there by myself, just all kind of stuff. Now, at the time, I'm a 23-year-old kid because I'm right out of college.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, maybe this is just the hazing that you go through as a rookie.
Yeah.
So I ain't, really taking it personal, but I'm like, this dude is tripping.
Right.
But the longer I rode with him, the more abusive his language became. Cussing me out and all that. Now, anybody that knows me, back then I was a little hothead. And being a police officer actually pulled that in for me. It really did.
Okay.
It taught me how to control my anger.
Okay.
So I took a lot of what he did to me because I felt like, okay, maybe this is just part of the job. Maybe this is just the hazing that goes on.
Yeah.
But when I was in my last 2 weeks in my ghost phase, and he got upset because I forgot to put something on the worksheet. He cussed me out. I'll never forget this. We were in the Poly area. He tells me, the Poly area in Fort Worth, he tells me, take him to Poly High School. We're going to fix this worksheet. Okay, cool. We fixed the worksheet. He cussing me out. It's raining. I mean, pouring down rain. He cussed me out and called me out my name, and that's where I draw the line.
Right.
I said, hold on. You need to watch your mouth.
Yeah.
He said, oh, you talking to me? You just a rookie. You can't talk to me like that. Do you understand I can get you fired? I said, I understand very clearly, but that ain't my name. You need to call me by my name. Don't call me out of my name.
Yeah.
So we go back and forth. He tells me, get out the car. I ain't getting out the car. I'm in the driver's seat.
Right. Right.
I said, I'm not getting out the car. If you don't like being in here with me, get your ass out the car. Now that's when it went left.
Yeah.
Oh, you talking to me like that? I'll get you fired. Now that's a brother.
Yeah.
I'll get you fired. You don't know, blah, 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 blah. He tells me, take him back to the office. I said, that's cool. Because I ain't getting out in this rain.
Right.
You know how sisters are about their hair in the rain. And at the time, I wasn't wearing this short cut. I wasn't getting out in no rain.
Right.
I don't care who said it.
Right.
So we get to the office. And at that time, I'm probably like 125 pounds soaking wet. I take my little skinny behind out the car, march up them stairs, go to the sergeant's office, take my gun belt off, lay it on the table, and said, I quit if I got to ride with him anymore. Because what he did was he grabbed me by the collar of my shirt. And that's when I said, no, we're not doing that because you don't touch me. Don't put your hands on me.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to tolerate. The sergeants were like, and it was 2 white sergeants. They were like, hold on, wait just a minute. Now, we were working in an area called Weed and Seed at the time. And I don't know if you ever heard of what Weed and Seed was. Weed and Seed was an initiative that they put in high crime areas to get rid of the drugs and a lot of the high crime. Okay. So what they did was the area we were working was a very high crime area. It was the area where Tatiana Jefferson got killed. Matter of fact, that area was really bad at the time.
Okay.
It was nothing for me to go to work in a 10-hour shift and hear 4 or 5 shootings a night on my radio. So that's how bad it was. Okay. So At that time, there were a lot of black officers who worked that area because community policing had began to be a big thing, and they wanted to put officers in the area that looked like the people who lived in the area because we could relate to them. Right. So when that information came out, those 2 white sergeants, I have to give it to them. They took care of me. They said, no, you're not going nowhere. What we're going to do, we're going to put you with somebody else. We're going to give him some time off, and you'll be fine. We'll deal with him.
Yeah.
Well, what happened was they went and told the other brothers that worked on the shift, and they handled him. They put me with a white guy. We get in the car, and what the brother had done was took my rookie book because they have to log any mistakes you make or anything like that in case you do mess up and something goes to court. Then they can look in your rookie book and say, well, this person had problems with this, and this. What they going to do with Aaron Dean? I guarantee you, just watch. They killed a Tatiana Jefferson. They're going to go through that rookie book and see what things did he have issues with and how did that play a role in what happened. So when he put all this stuff in my rookie book that I didn't know, like the call signals, which is what you get when you find out where you're going. A signal 1, you know it's an accident. So if the dispatcher sends you on a signal 1, you got to know what a signal 1 is.
Right, okay.
You know that before you get out the academy. This brother lied and said, I didn't know any of that. Well, first of all, you can't get to your last 2 weeks ghost phase without knowing that. So the 2 white sergeants knew that he was lying.
Yeah.
Because they had looked in my rookie book from the other 2 officers who trained me and said, she's doing fine.
Right.
So they put me with this other guy, a white guy, and I'm making this clear for a reason.
Okay.
We get in the car. The next day, he asked me about 10 signals. He was like, okay, that's a lie. He marked that off. We start working. He was like, he tells the dispatcher about halfway through the shift, the next 2 weeks, I want you to just make this a 2-man unit. This is not a rookie and an officer. This is a 2-man unit. He told the sergeant she knows what she's doing. She needs to be cut loose, but we understand you got to do this to cover your butt just in case something happens. But we're going to ride as a 2-man unit. And that's what we did. So the white boys took care of me while the brother was trying to get me fired. So you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So the reason I'm saying that is because you have good officers in these departments that look like us and don't look like us.
Yeah.
We got bad officers in the department that look like us and don't look like us.
Yeah.
So that's why it's imperative that we judge people by their character and not the skin color we see. Because you can see a black officer, and like you say, he causing more damage than the white officer over here that's trying to really do what's best for the neighborhood.
Right.
So that's why I said that. That's why I gave it to you like that.
Okay. So I want to give some values because I know you mentioned earlier that when police officers, they try to threaten you with, I'm going to arrest you. Right? When you know as a citizen that you've done nothing wrong and the police try to threaten you with, I'm gonna arrest you, what's the first thing the black person or the citizen should do? Not even black. I don't want to just go black. Citizen, what's the first thing they should do?
Well, I'm gonna tell you, because I've been seeing a lot of people say, you need to intervene and you need to do this and do that. Let me tell you something. If they killing us, you intervening ain't gonna make it no better. That's gonna be another bloodshed.
Okay.
My thing is, if you find yourself in a situation like that, comply, go to jail because you're alive.
Okay.
And I know people could probably saying, well, I don't want to go to jail for something I didn't do. None of us do. But I'd rather have you alive
in jail
so we can fight it in court than dead, and we don't have you to tell your side of the story.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because you can't. I used to tell people all the time when I was in uniform, you're not going to win on the scene. You're not going to win. You're going to have to get you an attorney. You can argue with me all day long, and I consider myself one of the good ones because, first of all, I wasn't trying to do that much work in the first place. Let me just be clear. I ain't going to work running. I ain't looking to run and jump over fences and this, that, and the other. Get the helicopter, please. Hello. My thing. This is a paycheck for me.
Right.
And the reality is, I wanted to make a difference in the community.
Right.
Yeah, the bad stuff comes with it, but the reality is, I ain't out there looking to go chasing nobody and get into all that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
If it happened, and I would do what I had to do.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is I wasn't looking for all of that, you know? So the thing is, you know, if you get out there and you get one of these crazies and, you know, they're talking crazy to you, and the best thing you can do is do what you know is right. Keep your hands at 10 and 2. Mm-hmm. You know, don't go reaching for anything without telling them what you're doing. Hey, my license is right here. Can you see? Move out the way and let them see. Do what you got to do. I do it all the time. And I was a police officer.
Yeah.
I had an officer laughing at me because he stopped me and I gave him the whole purse. Here you go, because I ain't digging in that.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, you know. And he was like, no, ma'am, you can go ahead. I said, no, I'm serious. The wallet is right there. Because you young officers, I don't know what y'all on today.
Yeah.
You know, so you do what you got to do to go home.
Yeah.
Have you a good attorney on standby. I tell everybody.
And that's the issue, though. A lot of people don't have access to attorneys. And if they do get an attorney, he going to either try to settle or they going to be like, just plea out. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I know going to jail, like especially if you know you ain't doing nothing or you ain't did nothing bad, it's an inconvenience.
Yes, it
more
is.
than anything.
Yes,
it's an inconvenience because, and I am something that I noticed today, that the dude in the Minneapolis, the white guy who was on George's neck,
Chauvin.
Yes, Officer Chauvin. He went to jail on Friday, and he already got a bond and everything.
And I believe he's out. That's just my opinion. I don't know if he is. It hasn't been reported, but I believe he's already made bond and out.
Because I know the times that I've been to jail on a Friday, I didn't get to see the judge until Monday.
Well,
so
this is another thing that people have to understand. When police officers are arrested, first of all, most of the time they're going to do what they call a walkthrough. Okay.
Okay.
Second, when they're in there, they're not going to put them in general population because they're going to kill them in there.
Right.
That's number one.
Right.
And being a former police officer, if I got arrested for something that I didn't do, because, you know, I've seen police officers get arrested for DWI or whatever, I wouldn't want to be in general population because I'm going to have to, somebody going to kill me in there just because they don't like the police. Not because Rhonda did anything to them, but because they don't like the police.
Right.
So I get that. That part I get. So they're not going to put them in general population when they go. They're going to put them somewhere where they can protect them until they can get them to court. And the other thing is they're probably in most cases going to do what they call a walkthrough, where they're gonna make their bond and they're going to walk them through the process, do their mug shot, whatever, get the paperwork done, and send them on back home until, you know, whatever. They have attorneys. See, they have attorneys that can do that for them. When you're a police officer, you pay into something, what is it called? Police Officers Association, things like that, where it's an organization called CLEAT, where they will represent police officers when they get into something like a shooting on duty and they need representation, where they pay into that monthly so that they always have an attorney available.
Okay.
And now I've never seen this happen for black officers, but with Aaron Dean, I believe that they actually paid his money for him to get out of jail.
The CLEAT organization?
It may not have been CLEAT, but there was a police officers organization that paid. Yes.
Wow.
So that's kind of how that works until they go to court. And so, you know, I don't know. I don't know if he's in jail. I think it took way too long to arrest him. I think when the chief, and I hold the chief of the department responsible for this, I think when he terminated him, he should have arrested him right there on the spot.
Yeah.
Same thing with the other 3 officers. When they terminated them, they should have arrested them on the spot.
Right.
They do it with citizens all the time. You arrest on the spot.
Right.
And if the charge is too high, you drop it. If it's too low, you raise it. Do the same thing with your officers. He killed a man on TV. I mean, we watched it.
Right.
So I don't understand why the chief didn't arrest him the moment that he terminated him.
Right.
I don't understand.
And oh man.
I do, but you know.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying.
Yeah. And it's so much. So let me ask you this. Do you think the solution is hiring more black officers or having less black officers. What do you think the solution is to that police reform?
Well, I think in police reform, let me say a couple of things. I think they need to go back to real community policing. I think they've gotten away from a lot of the community
where you got to live in that area.
No, you don't have. You don't even have to live there, but you have to. They get more involved. For an example, in East Fort Worth, there was an apartment complex called Weber Garden, and it's a lot of most of the people that live there are low income, right? And then you have the projects. Mm-hmm. They started an initiative back then called Kids Code Blue, where I would go to Weber Garden and do something with those kids weekly, like maybe 2-3 times a week, so that they could learn more about police officers. They wouldn't be scared of police officers. I bring other officers in, and they do little things with the kids, crafts, take them to the movies, just do little things with the kids, to, and those kids felt like they could come to me if something was happening. Right. They see me driving down the street, they could flag me down and say, hey, blah, 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 and I can handle it for them. You build a relationship. Yes. I tell people all the time, being a good cop is nothing more than having good social skills. Yeah. Social skills is what makes you a good officer, because think about all the bad officers you encountered. They didn't know how to talk to you. Right. They had a bad attitude. Right. They were cocky. So social skills, being able to relate to people, yes, and treating people like human beings is what makes a good officer. Simple as that. It ain't hard. Right. I mean, but if you think you're above them and your sole job is to enforce, you're going to have some problems. Yes, we have to enforce, but that's not our sole responsibility. Right. Our responsibility is to bring the community together and become a part of that community. And we become a part because I team up with you to drive out the crime that we don't want there. Right. You see what I'm saying?
Citizen,
yeah. So social skills is it.
Do you guys have to take some kind of like a psychology test every so often, or do they test you guys like that?
I don't know what they do now, but when I came on the department, and it's still a part of the hiring process, you have to go through a psychological evaluation. Okay. You go through that. That's
just at the beginning.
Yes. They don't in the hiring process.
They don't do it periodically?
They didn't when I was there. Okay. We did not have periodic, psychological evaluations unless you were involved in something. Then they would probably send you to the psychologist and have you evaluated at that time if you were involved in something. They did provide, if you were involved in something that was very tragic, that you saw, counseling for you and that type of thing. But I'm going to tell you something. A lot of officers don't take advantage of that because, it's unspoken, but it's almost like you weak. Yeah, you can't handle it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So a lot of these young officers were just going through the motions and dealing with a lot of this stuff on their own. Now today, I know they're more open with it, but I don't know how open it is now.
How often they take advantage of that? Do they offer you guys, or did they back then? Did they offer like every 6 months you had to take a training, or you have to pass a certain be retrained or something like that?
The training is consistent throughout your career. You have to have so many hours, and I don't remember what the hours are of training every year or every other year. When it comes to your firearm, you have to what they call qualify with your firearm annually, yearly. Back then, I don't know what it is today. I don't know if they do it every 6 months or if it's just once a year. But you had to shoot if the qualifying for the state was only 70%, Fort Worth would say, when we transitioned from revolvers to automatics, you had to qualify with an 85% on the range. So I tell people, don't get in a shootout with the police. They're trained shooters. It doesn't make sense. You watch TV and you back in the day in Fort Worth, we had gangs so bad in the 90s, and I would tell them, y'all shooting each other, but you're shooting all the wrong people. You never shoot your target because you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know, and then you want to get into it with the police. Those are trained shooters.
Right.
They're not going to miss.
Yeah.
If they want to shoot you, they're going to hit you. They're not going to miss. So don't put yourself in a position, you know, that you're not qualified to be in, one, and that two doesn't make sense to be in.
Right.
So my thing is, even as citizens, you have to learn to de-escalate. The same thing that officers need to be doing is de-escalating situations. So if you know that this officer is being a butthole with you, you know that they just over the top, my advice to you is to do everything in that moment that you need to do to stay alive. You know, again, you may be inconvenienced and go to jail, but I would rather have you alive and let's fight it in court and win it and make all the complaints that we need to make, call internal affairs, do what we got to do, than for something to happen. And because if you get into a scuffle with them, you ain't gonna win that.
Yeah.
And then at that point, you're the problem. Nobody's gonna listen. It get to the media. Who listens to what the person says? That nobody's gonna listen to them. You know, we got to go through a lot of red tape to figure out that the citizen was right. Don't put yourself in that position. It's not even worth it.
Yeah, it's like I hate that because I know my attitude, right, is if I'm doing something wrong, then all right, you got me. All right, you catch me. All right, you got me. But if I know in my heart that I'm not doing nothing wrong and I feel like I'm being picked on, I know my attitude is like, why are you fucking with me, man? Like what's wrong? Like why are you fucking with me? And then when you started getting aggressive with me, then my attitude is going turn up even more. Cause you fucking with me because I ain't doing nothing, and you trying to be aggressive, like, and you now you testing my manhood, and that part. And I read on something today, and this is when I knew for a fact. I always suspected it when I was a kid, but this is when I knew for a fact that the officers wasn't good in L.A. It was in 2013. Are you familiar with Christopher Donte?
That name sounds familiar.
So
some more info.
Okay, so he worked on the police department in the LAPD. He was disciplined or punished or was fired or something. He got disciplined for I can't remember exactly the story, but he went on like a week killing spree of all the higher ups, police chiefs. He killed like a daughter. He killed like one of the chiefs' a son. He went on for like a week, and he ended up running into the mountains up there in L.A. And they like barricaded him. He had a shootout with them. He was ex-police officer, so he did kill a couple of them. But they ended up burning down some cabin that he vacated himself in or put himself in, and he shot himself in the head. But it was like he left a manifesto saying that I'm doing all this just to clear my name because I did no wrongdoing and blah, 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 whatever his story was. And I was like, yeah, you know it's some corrupt motherfuckers in the police department because one of their own turned on them and ended up killing a bunch of people. And it was like for a whole week. And at the time I read about this last night. At the time I was thinking, I remember feeling like safe at that moment. I remember feeling like comfortable in the city where I knew the police. It felt like they was getting haunted. Not haunted. Yeah, hunted is the word I want to look for because one of their own that is equipped with guns. He know how to shoot, and I think he sent something to. He sent something to Anderson Cooper, and it was like a little quarter or something, and it said 1 MOA. I don't know what that meant, but the explanation was that he shot this quarter at 100 yards or something like that, and it was a bullet in there. So it was telling him, I'm trained to fucking shoot. So if y'all come after me, just know. And I was just like, damn, them motherfuckers is corrupt as fuck. If one of their own turn on them like that.
I mean, I'm not surprised when I hear stuff like that. I mean, I didn't see corruption like that in Fort Worth, but you had the stuff that I discussed earlier. You know, you had that. And they still have it, because I know officers that are there now that have dealt with some things. I mean, there's just a lot. I know officers who have retired and dealt with some things. So, I mean, I'm not surprised when I hear that amount of corruption in a police department, because it's possible.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, just based on what I've experienced and what I've seen, I know it's possible.
Yeah.
You know, and if you don't have anybody that's willing to speak up, it's going to be, you know, it'll get to that level.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, LA is known for some major corruption.
Yes.
You know, so yeah.
Yes. So let's dive into this. What do you think is going to happen with these? Because it's this shit is so like just every single day. Yeah. It's hard even for me to keep up, right? Yeah. So the officer who killed Breonna Taylor in Louisville, right? The officer who killed George Floyd in Minneapolis, and even Aaron Dean that's here locally. What is going to happen? Because here's my thing. Yes, if you're a police officer, you're a human being at the end of the day, right? You work just a job. You're going to make mistakes, right? I think the frustration for the public is when they're not being held accountable for their mistakes.
Exactly.
What do you think is going to happen to these police officers, if anything at all?
Well, you know what? Each situation is so different. And the laws, and then we also have to look at the laws in each state are so different. The police policies are different in each state that we're talking about. So I think when citizens look at these and they group them, they have to be careful with grouping all those situations, because you're dealing with different laws with different states.
So
you're dealing with different
I guess,
police departments and policies.
So my question is, I'm sorry, I don't want to cut you off, but I want to know, what is the policy for killing somebody on the job? Like, what is...
Well, see, that depends. It depends on what department you're on, because every department is different. Every department has different policies. Every state has different laws. Fort Worth has what they call a general orders that their officers have to follow, right? Mm-hmm. The laws in Texas lay out the laws that we are to abide by, right?
Right.
Dallas PD, Houston PD, Austin, all of them have to abide by the same laws, but each department's policy is different. Let me give you an example.
Please do.
Fort Worth may say, we don't do car chases in the rain. Dallas may say, you can do a car chase in the rain. Officer in Fort Worth does a car chase in the rain, knowing that that's not policy, and kills somebody in a wreck. Mm-hmm. Not only are they going to be disciplined because they did not follow policy, but they also killed somebody. So now they got a problem over here. Dallas can do chases in the rain. That officer accidentally has an accident and kills somebody. Well, they're going to look at, was the officer at fault? Could the officer have avoided it? So you got all these things they're going to look at before they determine if this officer should go to trial or whatever for this accident that happened. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So policy and laws in different states, it makes it a real sticky situation there, because you're looking at things differently. Because when you look at the Breonna Taylor thing, that young lady was at home, minding her own business, and they got the wrong house.
Right.
They done went in on a warrant at the wrong house that they shouldn't have even been there on. So just based on that, I can speculate that these officers in that department is gonna see some major things come down because of that.
Okay.
I could be wrong, because I don't know all their policies and, that type of thing.
Yeah. And
I don't know all the facts of that case.
Okay.
With the gentleman, Mr. George Floyd, that knee hold that he did on him, I don't even think that was something that they are allowed to do.
Yeah.
So there you go. He was fired because he used a hold on somebody that's not even approved. You can't do that.
So y'all have certain, or police departments have certain policies and certain things where they can grapple you or pull you to the ground that you can only do?
You have to, it's called a use of force continuum is what it's called, okay?
Okay.
And in that continuum, it tells you when you can use what they call open hand control. That means I can use open hand control. I can use my hands to to manipulate the situation if I have to. Say you walk up on me and you push me in my chest. At that time, I can use open hand control. I can grab you by your wrist and do a twist or whatever it is that I ain't gonna give y'all my secrets that I know how to do and get you to comply and under control. Okay. The continuum will go up. Now, if you pull out a weapon, or if you being a man and me being a female, and you come at me with your fist, I ain't trying to take that punch. I might just mace you. Right. Or I may go up and tase you. I can't pull a gun on a fist, though. So sometimes you might have to take that punch.
Yeah.
Because I can't shoot you. And that's where officers mess up.
Yeah.
They don't want to lose the fight. They're scared to lose the fight, and they'll shoot somebody.
Right.
Terrence Crutcher in Oklahoma, and I know his twin sister. Terrence Crutcher was shot by Officer Shelby when he was getting out the car. You remember that case?
No, I don't.
Terrence Crutcher was in the car. He got stopped by Officer Shelby. Her husband was an officer flying above in the helicopter. He says on the radio when he gets out the car, that's a big guy.
I do. Yeah, right. I do remember that. Yeah.
She shoots Terrence Crutcher and kills him. Terrence didn't have a weapon on him. Now, if Terrence had hit her, she just would have had to resort to her open hand control, her taser, or whatever. But a gun ain't. You don't bring out a gun when you going back and forth with a fist or you're pushing or whatever. Sometimes you just gotta fight.
Right.
And that's the bottom line. And a lot of these officers are afraid of the fight.
I thought that's all they did in the academy, or majority was hand-to-hand combat.
You do a lot of that. We did boxing. I mean, because you got to remember, some of these people ain't never been hit in their life.
Right.
Some of these people, I remember when I was in the academy, and it was so funny. There was a young lady in my academy class. She had never been hit before, so she didn't even know what it felt like. And when we got in that ring and we had to box, and she took that first hit that knocked the wind out of her, she thought she was going to die. If you've never experienced that, it will scare you. So they put them through that to desensitize them to it, and for them to be able to handle themselves until help comes when they're on the street. Because you may get into a fight, and you got to do what you got to do to hold on until your assist gets there. But that doesn't justify killing somebody.
Right.
And that's where they mess up. They get so scared, in my opinion, my humble opinion, but I'm experienced, so I think I can speak on it. I believe they get scared and they result to shooting somebody when all they should have done was just stayed in the fight and wait for your assist to come. I mean, if that person, and let me say this, let me clarify something. You don't want to get into a fist fight or a fight out there, because that gives the person that you're fighting with access to your weapon. And you don't want them to pull your weapon and use it on you.
Right.
So you want to always create that distance, okay? But if you punch me and I create distance, I can't now pull my gun and shoot you. The distance has been created. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense.
So, but I think a lot of these young officers are not good at evaluating situations in the moment like that, and that's where I think the problem comes in at, because they're missing that in the academy. They can't. I think that was the problem with Aaron Dean. Aaron Dean couldn't evaluate the situation properly, and that's how he got himself in that position.
I mean, I hear you. I want to give them the benefit of the doubt, but
we're not gonna do that.
Yeah, but because I see them use that restraint on other people where they.
Yeah, we're not gonna give them the benefit. Yeah,
but I see, because I know they know how to de-escalate a situation, use the hand or whatever the term is.
Let's just call it what it is. Like I said, Officer Shelby's husband said in that helicopter.
Big guy.
That's a big guy.
Yeah.
They are afraid of black people. Many of them. I'm not saying all of them, because I try to stay away from blanket statements.
Yeah.
But many of them see the black man as a threat.
Right.
And so that fear, they operate out of fear.
Yeah.
Rather than, and I always say it, if you are scared, that ain't the job for you.
Right.
You will get in situations where you will get scared, but you still have to be able to compose yourself and analyze that situation properly, so that you don't make mistakes, because when you make mistakes in that job, somebody loses their life, and it could be them. You know, officers will lose their lives if they make a mistake. So it's very crucial that they are held responsible for the mistakes they make, because when you hold them responsible, you are saving lives.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you're right. And if they can de-escalate a situation or use, because I know mace works. I used it on people before, so I know this shit works. And anybody who is coming at you or trying to be aggressive, if you use that mace, and I thought my understanding was it's a level. Like, you use your mace. If that don't work on a person, use your taser. If that don't work on a person, well, is there steps like that?
There is a use continuum. There is a use continuum. There's levels to it. However, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't even know that they still carry mace. You know, I'm an old timer, so
okay.
We had mace when I was there.
It feel like nobody got mace now.
They were They were transitioning to the taser as I was leaving. So I think they've done away with the mace. But even back then with the mace, things that they had to keep in mind: which way is the wind blowing? Because if I mace you and the wind is blowing this
Towards
way,
me.
Guess what? I just maced myself. Now you got me.
Yeah.
So I can't mace you because the wind is blowing a certain way. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So there's a whole lot that goes into it that citizens don't know that they have to. And the problem is, a lot of them can't analyze under pressure is what I think it is. I think it's a lack of training and the fact that they cannot analyze situations in a short period of time and under stress. Yeah.
Yeah. So there should be some kind of training for that. There should be some kind of training where you have to make, because I haven't seen I think it was like on 2020 where they had a virtual machine where officers had to go in, like where you have to make a split decision going into a house. Right. And this is the training so people won't get killed in real life situations. Mm-hmm. And I feel like putting people under a stressful situation for too long is where the mistakes happen. Where you have to, because it's a job it's a job. You go in there 8 to 10 hours a day, and then you go off, you take vacation, do whatever. So when you under a stressful job like that, like, I don't know, how long y'all get vacation, but for at least 11 months out of the year, you under that same kind of stress. That's when I feel like where the mistakes are made. Well,
they work long hours. A lot of officers are working 12, 14 hour days. That's a long time.
It is.
They
should work like the fire department do.
24?
No. Where
24 on, 48 off?
Yes.
No, you can't do a 24-hour shift in police work.
No?
It's not going, no.
So because the fire department, they understand something that I guess police officers don't.
But you got to remember, the fire department, they're at work, but they're not working the whole time. Police officers are working the whole time. Remember, the fire department, they at the station sleep, watching TV, hanging out, they doing whatever. And when they get a call, they go out. The police officer is driving around the whole shift. You don't get to sit down and watch TV. And
so maybe they should do something like where they work 10 or 12, and then they still on the clock, but they at the office and somebody else, where they have somebody else rotating in, where they working at 10 or 12, and you have like a split shift between you and this person. So that way they can have a couple of days off in between. So you're not going there every single day, 10 hours, 12 hours every single day. But now you get some days broken up in between.
I think they've tried to address that in some departments, and I can speak for Fort Worth because I know people that are still there. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of them are working 4 days, 10 hours, and then they're off for 3 days to give them a longer break.
Yes.
And your off days are consecutive.
Right.
They have to be consecutive.
Yes.
So that's what they've done. However, even with that being there, what we have to remember is they don't have the manpower to always, so when special things come up like these riots and stuff like that, they got to come in on their day off. And they got to work, or they got to stay over. You know, they have a 10-hour shift. They may have to work a 14-hour shift. And they may have to come back in the next day. When we had the tornado, I think it was in 2000 in Fort Worth, where it tore up all the West 7th. I remember working 14-hour days. I remember getting off. I was there when the tornado happened. I was at work and was supposed to get off at 10, and I remember not getting off till 6 o'clock in the morning and having to be back at work. They got to give you at least 4 hours, having to be back at work at 2:30.
Goodness gracious. So
you have to do, they don't have the manpower. Yeah. So they have to do what they have to do. And in today's time, ain't nobody applying to be no police officer.
Especially not now. Especially not now.
So, and I always say, and I want to say this because people need to understand this. Right now in the climate we're living in, the black police officer that's the good cop has the hardest job in America right now. Because they're dealing with the mess that the bad officers are doing.
Right.
They're dealing with, now they're also dealing with the fact that their community sees them as a traitor.
Right.
And they trying to work this thing out. They trying to do what's right. And they trying to, let the community know I'm here with you.
Right.
But the community is saying, if you was with me, you'd be doing this or you'd be saying this. And they're not, they don't understand that they are saying something.
Right.
You just don't see it. And I can't just come out on the news and say blah, 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 blah. So I think the black officer right now, the good one, has the hardest job in America right now. And I sympathize with them and I empathize with them because I've been in that place. On the flip side, I empathize and sympathize with the black community as a whole because I'm a black woman.
Right.
I don't have children, but I have a nephew that's 24 years old. And it scares me when he's out because I know he's hanging out with his boys. He's doing what he does. Right. But, he's a college graduate. He's a good kid. And that would just kill me. Right. If something happened to him. So I'm anxious at the same time. Yeah. I have brothers. I'm anxious when I know my brothers are out. I mean, and my family will tell you, my PTSD sometimes is over the top. Because I'll be calling my brothers and be like, dude, it's 11 o'clock. Why you out? Yeah. It's dark. Yeah, go home.
Yes.
So, I mean, but because of everything that I've seen and being on the other side, it scares me to experience that after I've given 17 years of my life to law enforcement. Mm-hmm. I don't ever want to experience it. And that scares me that one day I may experience it because of what's going on right now.
Yeah. So as a citizen, how do we cipher between the good and the bad ones? Or we just have to run into them?
You know what?
Because the good ones we want to champion, right? We want to champion the good ones.
Right.
But it's so many bad ones. Or maybe not even so many. I ain't even going to say it's so many bad ones. The bad ones stick out more than the good ones. So how do we cipher between the good and the bad ones?
Well, I'm going to say this. And I'm going to use the analogy of what we do with white people, being a black woman. Mm-hmm. Don't judge me based on the bad black people you know. Judge me based on my character.
Got you.
The relationship that you have with me, or the contact that you've had with me, judge me based on my character, not what you see
on TV
or out here.
Right.
And that's the only thing I can say. When you come in contact with one and you're doing what you're supposed to do, judge them based on how they're responding to you. When somebody, but let me say this because, and look, let me fix my headphones.
Go ahead.
Because as a police officer, because of the climate we live in, and people have had so many bad experiences with police officers, a lot of times people judge all police based on the bad experiences that they've had. Like you said, you've never had a good experience. So when you come in contact with one, you may be like, oh, Lord, here we go. Mm-hmm. There's nothing wrong with having that thought. My thing is don't act on it. Continue to carry yourself if this person is just the nicest individual you've ever met. And I'm going to tell you why. Because I would make a traffic stop and it would never fail. Before I could even get out the car. The F you stopped me for? Blah, 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 blah. Well, now you got me on another level.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I ain't even said nothing yet.
Yeah.
I'm still walking up to the car.
Yeah.
But because of the experiences they've had, they're throwing attitude at me, and they don't even know me. They just see the uniform.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so I would always have to fight that battle before I could even deal with, because a lot of times, like I said, I wasn't trying to do much of nothing anyway.
Yeah.
So most of the time, if I stopped the car, I'm going to tell you why, most of the times why I stopped the car. Because I wasn't a traffic person.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people, they have their niches. In traffic, that wasn't my thing, right? So if I made a traffic stop, it was for a few things. One, I saw that you had a brake light out or something like that, and I didn't even have in my mind I was going to write you. I'm stopping you so I can inform you, because you can't see the back of your car.
Right.
And tell you, hey, you got this brake light out. Now, somebody else might stop you and give you a ticket.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to tell you, you need to get this fixed now because, whatever. And this was back before we didn't have to write a warning or anything, know. And I would just let them know. Or if I saw that you had a kid in the car that was underage and they weren't in a seat, I'm going to stop you because I'm going to teach you a lesson. Now, that one I'm going to write you a ticket for.
Yeah.
I'm going to inconvenience you.
Yeah.
Because I'd rather inconvenience you and you learn the lesson and save your child's life than to let you keep going and you have a wreck up the road and that baby goes through that windshield, because I've seen that before. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So there was always a reason for my stops. It wasn't just
cause.
Right.
Yeah.
So, it's just, so my thing is, when I would stop somebody and they would come at me like that, now I got an attitude. And then they would be like, well, she's just like the rest of them. No, I'm not. If you come at me with an attitude, how you expect me to respond? I am human.
Right.
I'm human. And I ain't no punk either.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
My mama didn't raise no punk. I ain't finna just let you talk crazy to me. My human side come out and the hood come out. I got some hood in me. Don't think just because I got this uniform on that you can talk to me any kind of way. So now we going back and forth. And again, you're not gonna win. Because I'm in charge when I make that stop. Right. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So what I would do, though, is I would de-escalate the situation and say, now see, because I would turn it into a joke. I'd be like, now see, I just walked up here to tell you your brake light is out. You getting all crazy. Now, if I wrote you a ticket, you'd think I was doing you wrong. Oh, I'm sorry, officer. I said, but see, that's what I'm talking about. You didn't even know me. So I need you to bring that down. Because if one of them other officers stop you and you respond to them like that and they ain't even said nothing, if they wasn't coming at you like that, now you just gave them an excuse to act a fool with you. Does that make sense to you?
It makes perfect sense.
So that's kind of how that goes. You just gotta judge each one based on how
they treat you,
but make sure you're not the instigator.
Yeah. Because I know just probably 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, my brake light was out, right? And I seen the police officer leaving my house. I seen him sitting over there in the corner.
Yeah, that happens.
I was like, this motherfucker gonna pull me over. Yeah. When I left, he didn't pull me over. When I came back, he pulled me over, and I'm like, God damn it. And he said, yo, your brake light is out. I'm like, it is? I got out. I said, can you step on the brake so I can see? He was like, no, I don't know you. You don't know me. I said, all right. I said, okay, well, what you want me to do? I mean, I can fix it. He was like, oh, I ain't going to give you a ticket. And then I don't know what maybe clicked in him or changed his mind. But after he was like, step out, go ahead and look. And then he stepped on my brake and I seen it was out. And then I went to AutoZone and fixed it. But it was, I don't know, because maybe it was either my demeanor when he said, hey, your brake light is out. And once he said, and I was like, can you step on it? I don't know what happened, but something in him was like, damn, he already on the defensive and I haven't even said nothing. So maybe he changed. And then after that, he was like, yeah, just get that fixed. And he let me go on by my way. And I was like, okay, I don't know what that was, but I'm glad he didn't give me no ticket. I'm glad he didn't give me a ticket. And so I'm not going to say all my interactions with police officers been bad, but it's just the ones that really stick out to me are the ones that I had the bad experience with.
Yeah.
I had police lie on me when I was a kid. Yeah. I'm talking about I was like maybe 15 years old, where I was in junior high. So wherever you are in junior high school, we was doing something we shouldn't be doing, right? And it was two of my Hispanic friends. They took us both down to the precinct, questioned us, and they didn't question me. They questioned one of my other guys, and they let me go. And I'm like, okay, what happened? And then when we got back on our street, they was like, yeah, the police said the black dude told on y'all. I'm like, they didn't say shit to me. They didn't even talk to me.
Let me say this.
So I'm like, what the fuck?
Let me say this. That's a common thing too. Let me say this. That's why a lot of people don't trust the police now. You know, you'll have crimes going on in neighborhoods, and people know who's doing it.
Yeah.
They won't tell the police officer because the police officer might go back and tell the person, hey, so-and-so told me you did such and such and such and such. That's that thing that I was talking about when I said social skills. You got to protect the people that you out there to serve.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
And that's wrong. Okay? He was wrong. Whoever that officer was, he was wrong.
Yeah.
You don't do that because people get killed behind stuff like that depending on what the crime is. You understand?
Yeah.
And so that's somebody who was just who's just looking for, you know, breaking the crime, you know, breaking everything up, and making sure that they got who did it. They don't care about the individual.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
When you care about the people in the neighborhood, you won't do that, you know. And I think I developed such good relationships with the people out there that when we had a murder that happened in Arlington years ago, high profile gentleman that owned funeral homes in Fort Worth.
Okay.
And he was murdered in Arlington. Somebody called me at home. They called me on my cell phone. I'll never forget this. Middle of the night. They said, listen, I got somebody here that has some information for you. They put them on the phone. They gave me some information. I said, okay. I called who I needed to call. Next thing you know, an arrest was made in that murder. I didn't break that case because I'm some heck of a police officer.
Right.
That case got broke because somebody trusted me enough to give me the information and knew I would never tell who they are or where it came from. And to this day, I've never said where that information came from.
And you shouldn't.
And exactly.
You shouldn't.
And let me say this. When the news broke and it hit the news, my deputy chief came to my office and asked me, how did you do that? And I said, well, I can't give you that information. I said, but plus it's Arlington's case. I already gave the information to the detective over there, and I've already informed him I couldn't give him my information. And because they had some other things that sealed it, they didn't need to find out who it was.
Yeah.
Do you know she got upset with me because I would not give that information?
Your supervisor?
That's right. Because they want to be able to say that, we did this.
Right.
But that's
and this
just
who told.
it.
Yeah.
Everybody wants attention. It's not about attention.
Right.
If I wanted the attention, I could have just said it myself.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's about developing those relationships and trust. And that's why I believe they really need to go back to community policing. And it's going to be hard to do in the climate that we're in because people don't trust the police. And it's going to be like it was when I first started. Nobody trusted the police. They didn't like the police. They couldn't stand us.
Yeah.
You know, I remember I grew up in Fort Worth, born and raised pretty much, went to high school there, went to TCU, you know, and as soon as I became a cop, there were people that quit talking to me. She ain't want us no more.
Yeah.
We can't trust her.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So it took years for me to develop that rapport and for people to understand this is just a job for me. I ain't out here looking for what y'all, doing.
Right.
You was selling dope before I got in the police department. I already know that.
Right.
I ain't looking to come and get you.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't want to know nothing about your business.
Right.
But on the flip side, please understand, I ain't looking to get you caught up.
Right.
You know, I don't want to know nothing. You ain't got to tell me nothing. But at the same time, you ain't got to run from me either.
Right.
Because I'm not the one that's out here looking for stuff. Now, I would always make it plain. You do what you do, I do what I do. I know what you do, you know what I do. Now, if our paths cross and I'm doing my job, I'm going to do my job.
Right.
Don't expect me to put my job on the line to save your behind.
Right.
That's not going to happen.
Right.
But at the same time, I'm going to look out for you on your way to jail. I ain't going to let nobody hurt you. I ain't going to let nobody do nothing to you. But at the same time, I ain't finna give up my bread and butter for you. Because you could have chose something else to do.
Right.
So it was a level of respect.
Right.
And once we got that respect going and they understood, look, she ain't out here to get me, but at the same time, she's just doing her job.
Right.
Once we got that going, I never had any problems.
I see why now they wanted to keep you on the force. I do, because I respect that. I respect that. Like, as long as I know, I just got to keep it away from her. Don't let our paths cross.
That's right.
I'm good. Like, I know.
We be in the same club. We used to be in the same club, same nightclub. Look, they in the same club that me and some of my police friends in. We all know what they do. And they know what we do. We all cool. I ain't looking for nothing.
Right.
You do what you do. I do what I do. But now, when I go to work, if your name come across that desk and you got a warrant, don't look for nothing from me.
Right.
Because this is my job.
Right.
And you put yourself in that position. So we had to understand it. It was simple as that. I can tell you, I went to roll call in the gang unit one day. They set out a bunch of warrants, guys we were looking for. One of the kids that I worked with when I was doing community policing in that apartment complex I told you about. He was a teenager by this time. Probably young adult. I'd say maybe 18, 19. Had a robbery warrant. I called some dudes that I knew in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Said, hey, I just left roll call. This boy got a robbery warrant. Does he know? They said, let me call you back. Do you know they called me back and he said he had his granny house. Go on and come pick him up. I went to his granny house. I picked him up. He goes to put his hands in the back to get, for me to cuff him. I said, no, I'll cuff you when we get down to the jail. Get in the front seat. Drove him down to the jail. We get into the bay. I handcuff him, take him in jail, let him handle his warrant. It was simple as that. And I said, why did you call and tell me to come get you? He said, because I knew you wasn't going to rough me up. So that's, it is what it is.
Yeah.
He knew what he did was wrong.
Exactly.
But he knew I wasn't going to hurt him.
Yes.
And he knew I wasn't going to. Now, I'm going to tell you if you got a warrant.
Yeah.
Now, if it's a drug raid that's getting ready to happen, you get nothing.
Right.
I'm not going to give you that information.
Right.
Because that's my job. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I would go on drug raids because when I was with the task force, we wearing black mask and we go in there. First of all, look at my hands. If I ain't wearing gloves and I'm the only sister on the team, they probably already know who it is.
Yeah.
So after we done made, done the drug raid, they sitting on the, everybody sitting there like this, waiting to be transported. I walk by and one of them be like, Rhonda, I know that's you under that mask. I be like, I know. I don't even know why I wear the mask. I don't even know. So, but we have some stories where we can laugh, and a lot of them have gone to prison, gotten out, got their life together. And today, we have conversations, and it's like, you know what, you told me back then, I didn't get it then. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, you never treated me any different than, and that's where their social skills come in at. You got to understand somebody else's walk.
Right.
Somebody didn't have the resources I had.
Right.
To live the life that I was able to live, to go to college and do this. So they resorted to what they knew, which was the street game.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I have cousins that were in the street game. I have relatives that were in the street game. Just because we related don't mean we had the same opportunities, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I understood that. So I treated people. My grandparents they lived in the hood. I remember a guy opened a dope house across the street from my grandparents' house. And my grandparents was like, man, he got all this traffic. I went over there and talked to him. I said, dude, you can't do this right here.
Yeah, not across the street from Granny house.
He was like, you know what? Oh, I didn't know. He shut it down. He kept the house. Yeah. Shut it down. It was no longer a trap house. Mm-hmm. It's probably where he's counting his money.
Yeah.
But he watched out for my grandparents. The whole time he had that house there. He looked out for my grandparents. He would go to the store for him. He'd do whatever. But he moved the business somewhere else. Why? Because
And you was a police at this
I was a
time.
police officer, but I told him you ain't finna do that here.
Right.
Because if they come and shoot up, my grandparents are, no. You got, and everybody on that street, I've known those people since I was a little girl. You can't do that right here. And he respected that.
Yeah.
He moved his dope house somewhere else. He stayed in the house, and he watched out for my grandparents while he was there. He called me, hey, I was just checking to see if your grandparents needed anything from the store. Stay away from over there, but we good.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
just stay on across the street.
Yeah.
But you good.
Yeah.
So it's all about social skills and understanding where people come from.
Yes.
And I think that's what we miss with a lot of these officers out here.
Yes, I agree 100%. My last question, because I know with majority of black men that I know, they usually getting beat up in the courts, right? From either tickets or it's because I feel like the court system is slowly, it just beats you down little by little, taking your license. It started from just taking your license, and then you're not able to get a job. Then you got this kind of. So when it comes to getting a ticket or going to court, right? Mm-hmm. I know for me, the number one word or phrase that I learned is due process. Mm-hmm. For me, that was such important because I was like, oh, they can't just do that to you? They was like, no, you need to go. You have due process as a citizen, and they have to go through the due process to actually find you guilty of either for a ticket or for a crime, right? What do you think, number one, as far as when black people go to court, how should they handle that? What should they do besides, just getting an attorney? Because I know I had to fight. I had a bunch of tickets in L.A. Where they took my license for years. And it wasn't until I went to somebody where he gave me a bunch of information on how to fight the court to get my tickets removed and be able to get my license back. Because I went for years driving with no license, no license. Before you answer that question, though, does officers, do they have like a reward system for getting tickets?
No, I think there's a misconception that there is a quota.
Yes.
That officers have to meet to write tickets, and I always tell people, trust me, there's no quota because they would get on me all the time. Rhonda, you on wrote 2 tickets this week, so that there's no quota, so to speak, but you do have to show that you out there working.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
There's not a quota. They can't, it's illegal for them to say, hey, you have to write 25 tickets in a week. Or it's Christmas time. This is the one people always think. It's Christmas time, they got a quota. They got to write tickets. No, that's not true.
Okay.
They cannot tell you need to write 15 tickets in a week, or you need to write a minimum of 4 tickets a day. They can't do that. Okay. However, your job as a police officer is to enforce the law.
Right.
So if you never ever write a ticket, that's a problem. So, and police officers will laugh if they see this, but I'd be like, 2 tickets a day, keep the sergeant away. You get your 2 and you done for the day. You ain't got to stop no more cars. You go do what you gonna do, because a lot of people traffic stops ain't they niche. They ain't really tripping on traffic stops unless it's something major. Like I said, you see a kid not in a car seat, or you see somebody run a light and almost hit somebody, then you're gonna go ahead and write that ticket. But for the most part, they have traffic units that's their sole responsibility, and those are the ones you see on the highway that are running radar. That's their sole responsibility, is to keep the traffic flowing at a nice speed, making sure that people are not going over the speed limit and that type of thing. But your regular patrol officers just out there, it might see you roll through a stop sign and stop you and write you a ticket. That's their job. They're going to do that, but there's no quota.
Got you.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. LaRhonda, I want to thank you so much for coming through. Like, I think I got a good perspective on the other side of that badge. You know what I mean? Because I've only seen it from one side. So thank you again for coming through. And I know you do another radio show.
Yes.
What is the name of it again?
It's called Behind the Blue Curtain.
Okay.
And we air We come on live every Saturday,
Okay.
10 a.m. Central, 11 a.m. Eastern time.
Okay.
Till noon. It's a 2-hour show, and we talk about police reform, social injustice. And this morning we talked about the whole Minnesota thing and the riots. Hopefully next week we get to talk about this autopsy, the results from this autopsy and some
George
other things.
Floyd's, right?
Yes.
Okay.
That is the only show in the country where you have 3 former police officers who look like us and giving you a perspective from us, from 3 black police officers. So
Okay.
there are other co-hosts on the show, but Mr. Stan Mason, who is a retired 25-year veteran officer out of Waco, Texas, is the one who developed that show a couple of years before he retired.
Okay.
And then he recruited Mr. Joseph J. Mosley II out of Chicago, who is a 32-year retired Chicago homicide detective. And then you have myself, and then we have 3 other co-hosts on the show. One guy who did, I think John did, if I'm not mistaken, 20-something years in prison. And so he talks about the aspect of, being incarcerated and making the transition when you come out. So we have a pretty diverse group on that show. And so we try to hit everything from the different angles so everybody can understand. It's rare that you see former police officers and somebody who served time in prison come together and do a show. And I think that's what makes our show so unique.
Okay. Behind the blue curtain, y'all.
Yes.
Make sure y'all tune in. Again, Rhonda, thank you so much for coming
having
through.
me. I appreciate it.
Anytime we get some kind of police thing, I want to have you back.
Sure.
It's another guy that I have on quite a bit named Austin.
Okay.
That's real insightful. He's one of those guys on the ground. As I would definitely want to have both of y'all in at some point in time. Sure. But thank you again for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah,
anytime
no problem.
I can help, community is my thing. So anytime I can help, just let me know. And again, I appreciate you.
Yes. Yo, thank y'all for tuning in. This has been the Tap In Podcast. Make sure y'all like us on YouTube, subscribe. Thank y'all again. This is the Tap In Podcast. Holla.